What's up, everybody? Well, I got another Asus G15 Advantage gameplay video for you guys today, and today we're gonna have a look at Sons of the Forest, as it was requested by a couple people now. I think 3 people. One or two for the Steam Deck, and 3 people at least for the Asus G15 Advantage. So, I figured I would hop to it on a Monday, since weekends are my days to just game and have fun, even though sometimes I still do work on Saturdays and Sundays, but this weekend I felt like taking complete weekend off. So here we are on Monday getting these things made for you guys, and hopefully I'll have them even uploaded tonight, so they'll be ready tomorrow, or possibly even later tonight, we'll see. So, let me not waste any more time, and we're going to do 1080p first, then we'll move on to 1440p, then we'll do the secondary computer, then we'll do the primary computer, just like usual. So, let's go hook this up to the capture computer real quick, go run through all the settings. Hopefully this one doesn't crash. My Steam Deck crashed when I was running it on Ultra, but makes sense. It's not exactly an Ultra, what do you call it, settings kind of thing, at least not for newer games anyway. Even older games it has trouble with, but that was never its intention. It was just supposed to be 30 FPS, AAA titles, and it can usually do that. There's still a lot of ones it can't do, and it can't do this one either, but that's besides the point. Let's not waste any more time and get the laptop hooked up so we can see how it does. I'm hoping it'll at least be able to do 60, but only one way to find out. Well, now let's try the Asus G15 Advantage out, but first let's see the settings. We're going to do 1080p first with exclusive full screen, no VSync, and and the frame maxed out, so we can get as much as we want. And then we're just going to try Ultra first. It's probably not going to work well, so we'll probably go through all the settings. And I believe that's what a couple people wanted me to do anyway, so we will just go through all the settings on this guy, just like we did on the Steam Deck. And then my settings at the very end, as usual. But now that's the bottom, so let's go get into the game. Well, here we go. Playing on Ultra here at 1080p on the Asus G15 Advantage. And we're off to a pretty good start. We're staying above 60 so far. Doesn't mean we will everywhere in the game, but at least so far so good. We weren't like immediately at 30, so that's good. Still got some stutters though, at least when you're on Ultra. I think that honestly has to do mostly with just Ultra being like too demanding for most stuff. That's why it's kind of silly to run things on Ultra. Even on my main computer, I generally won't. Not unless I'm getting like hundreds of FPS. And I don't like using DLSS if I can help it as well. I will though if I have to. Even frame generation if I have to. I just don't like having to do that, because then it's like, oh, that's basically admitting that your $1,600 GPU can't even do 4K 60 FPS with everything turned up. And yeah, it can't. Not like, well, getting decent FPS, at least in my opinion. So far it stays above 60 in almost every game, but there's still some outliers there. Can't max out Cyberpunk. Oh, if you do that, you're getting 35 to 40 FPS without any help from DLSS. When you got ray tracing and all that stuff on the highest setting it can go, it's not a good time. No. But lots of games my main computer could just like easily cruise through. I'm thinking this is going to be one of them. I could be wrong, but it has one of the strongest, if not the strongest CPUs I have. I mean, the 5800X3D puts up a good fight in certain games that take advantage of that large cache pool, but for the most part, I think this thing's the 1300 KF's single core and higher clock speed usually make it the smoother and better gaming processor in the long run. Now, maybe if I went and turned them down to 1080p and did like super CPU tests, it'd be different. But now, let's move on. Well, let's down it to high real quick. And of course, go through it as well. I will try to remember to mess with that anti-aliasing setting this time around, but I can't make any promises. But that's the bottom, so let's go hop on into that game now. So now here's the game on high graphics settings. Here's our buddy. But we'll just leave him alone for now, and just continue to go and explore a teensy bit. And at times we're close to going under to 60, but so far though, we've stayed above 60, barely. We're getting close to going under here though. We went down to 62 for a second there. And there could be those random stutters, of course, that random like just drop while you're walking forward.
That's not to say this game's a stutter fest. As you can see by the frame times, it's not bad at all, really. But I do think it's slightly bottlenecked by the CPU, at least for 1080p, because as you can tell, we are not getting full GPU utilization. Which I'm pretty sure that's also why my GPU is not clocking up its wattage. Because I went and ran, at first I quit out of this game when I saw that. I was like, what the hell? And I went and ran a Cinebench, or not Cinebench, but Fire Strike, and it's like, no, it's going up to the 23 to 2400 megahertz. That it normally goes up to. What the fuck? But then I looked up there, I was like, oh, okay. Well, no, there it's still going up to 98, so this game just must not use that much wattage. Whatever. Fire Strike still did, and a lot of other games still do, but this is not one of them, apparently. But alright, I think that's probably about good enough. Why don't we now tone the settings down again, down as a medium now. Well, alright, now we have toned it down to medium, but first, before we get into the game, of course, we gotta look at the settings, so let's just get to the bottom real quick, and then we will hop into the game. Alright, that is the bottom. Let's go hop into the game now. Well, here we go now with some medium settings. So let's just run around again in this little rainy, foresty area. I definitely like this crash zone more than the cold area, because harder to run, so it's a better place to show you guys. Here goes a rabbit. He's like, fuck this. There's a bunch of rabbits in here. Holy shit. Well, so far so good. We're still just barely staying above 60 at times, but we're still staying above it, so good enough for me. Kind of make me wonder what my setting is going to be so far. What can I get away with? But, alrighty, why don't we now go tone it down to low and see how low does, and how it looks. Well now, here's the low preset, so let's go over the low settings real fast, then we can get back into the game. And alright, that is the bottom, so you know what that means? It's time to get back into the game, that's what. Well now, here's some low gameplay. And we seem to be getting 80s here, where we usually get 70s. So it's definitely working. Yeah. We're not going to bash him over there with the rock, but now if freaking whatchamacallit, Cannibal comes around, we can bash him in the head with a rock. Hell yeah. Alright, I can't cut that tree down, but I cut down a bunch of other bushes by swinging it. I do have that axe, though, but I have no idea how the hell to actually equip it. I hit equip, but it doesn't let me, like, pull it out. Maybe I have to, like, go onto it and, like, pick the hit like a cog or something gear, kind of like in the beginning, and open up that one thing. Maybe I have to like hit that, and then it'll like, okay, now you can equip it, or something. Who knows? Who knows? There's so many deer and so much wildlife in this forest. It's pretty damn cool. They did a pretty good job on this considering how it's an early access game. Well, in any case, I think that's probably good. So why don't we now go move on to ultra low? Well, now we have made it to ultra low, so let's go through the ultra low settings before we get into the game. Let's just turn that off too. I finally realized that. And there we go. Let's get into the game, shall we? Well, now, here we go, ultra low. So let's just walk around here, get a little bit of some gameplay in. Then we'll try the little FSR trick. Then we'll do my settings. Since there's no ray tracing or anything in this game as of yet. They might add it later, but we'll have to wait and see. Not gonna lie, half the time I see a water drop out of the corner of my eye, I think it's a fucking bear about to eat me. The one thing I haven't seen, but I've seen lots of other animals, so. What else lives in the bear? Or what lives in the bears? What lives in the woods? Bears, wolves, all sorts of bad shit. And in this place, cannibals. And a bunch of cans that were perfectly stacked just got knocked over by nothing. And they were really stable, so that's pretty neat. Oh, you know what it is? Probably the Vornado, even though they're sitting straight. Aluminum cans don't really weigh much, so it probably started just, you know, making the top one or the top couple sway, and then after a couple of times, it was like, all right, I'm just gonna plug and fall over. But we could always just be like, nope, ghost. Instantly ghost. Has to be a ghost. But alright, we have made it to this waterfall looking thing, so why don't we go ahead and do some FSR, or Dynamic Resolution FSR, whatever you want to call it, and then we can do my settings after that. Well, I figured let's max the game out if we're going to try anything Dynamic Resolution or FSR or anything of that nature, so I did 100 for figuring either if it's 100 FPS, that sounds good, or if it's 100% resolution, that's also cool. But then that also kind of makes it pointless if it's that, but we'll see how it does and how it looks. So, into the game we go. Now let's try out some of this Dynamic Resolution FSR 1.0 stuff, and yeah, does not look very good. Didn't look good on the Steam Deck, doesn't look good here either. It's just FSR 1.0 just does not look good. But we'll still get a little gameplay with it anyway. still able to stay above 60 most of the time, anyway. There's one time back there I saw it done to 61. I'm pretty excited to see what the desktops do as well. I wonder if they can handle this game well. They should be able to if this thing's handling it this well. Only thing is, this thing can't seem to max out the GPU at 1080p, but can't do that with a lot of games. Almost all the time, when you're in 1080p, you're almost always going to be CPU bottleneck. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, but the lower resolution you go, you're almost always run into CPU bottlenecks, more often than not, especially when you're doing low graphics settings. But we're not right now. We're in FSR. We're max game out. We just toned the resolution down a little bit. Whoops. Trying to swim through rock. That doesn't exactly work too well, as rock is quite solid. It is not liquid. At least not in its present state. Now when it's magma. But anyway, though, why don't we go ahead and go on to my settings now. Now for my settings, now it ran pretty damn good on high. So I figured we would just turn some shadow quality down a smidgen. And besides that, I think it'll run pretty good. I wanted to try out SMAA as well. Now if I recall, it did not work out so well. So if we just turned that off, I think it would work even better. Well, I know it would work better. But anyway, let's go see how it does anyhow. Well now, let's try my settings out a little bit here before we go over to camera. With the same settings, of course, but a lot of people like watching the camera gameplay, so I like to include that as well. Even though we're doing capture computer now and it should not affect the FPS at all, it's still nice to just do a little camera too, just so you can kind of see what it's like from my point of view. Now I got a good camera. That camera's got a damn good ass lens and a good ass sensor. Very much like that new camera I got. I'm halfway tempted to upgrade the thing I use when I do camera recorded gameplay, though. I mean, that one sounds pretty good, but I sound not that great from behind it, but I think I'll run into that problem. I think to myself, I'll run into that problem with anything, because for that kind of thing, you want it mostly pointed at the laptop. It sounds fine when you're just listening to in-play audio. It's just I sound kind of bad. Not a big deal, though. At least what counts is good. And at least this audio is good, and the intro and outro audio is really good. It's just my voice sounds a little off from what I noticed. Not necessarily bad, just doesn't sound quite as crisp. But that's no big deal. But as you guys can see here, we're getting 70-ish FPS. Pretty smooth frame times. We got deer. Even more deer. We got wildlife everywhere. You name it, we got it. But, alright, I think that's probably about plenty for screen recorded my gameplay. So now let's go do the camera portion of my gameplay and my settings. Alright guys, let's get ourselves some camera gameplay now. And as I said before, or at least I think I did, if I didn't I meant to, this is a early access game, so it is obviously going to get better and better as time goes on. At least I would assume so. I don't want to make false promises or nothing, but I assume the FPS and everything else will probably go up a little bit when it gets closer to final release. Wouldn't expect miracles, but I'd say it would probably be closer in the 70s, like in here, once all is said and done. But I will say this, at least the game isn't a stuttering mess. So I'll give them to that, or I'll give them that.
The other freaking PC games I've been playing lately are starter fests. That sucks. Even Returnal had to turn ray tracing off for that to not stutter. That's not cool. But I had fun beating that game. That was a fun game. Very fucking hard. Got very angry a lot, but got angry at Elden Ring a lot too. It's just part of the fun. And then you try again, and then when you eventually beat the fucking area you were stuck at, or you beat the boss you were stuck at, it's fucking awesome. Not that there's that many bosses in that game, but I don't want to ruin it too much for people who haven't played it, but it's a year-old game almost at this point. I'm feeling that most people, besides people on PC anyway, have already played it, but still don't want to ruin it for them. That's exactly why I always play the beginnings of games, in fact. A lot of people are kind of meaner commenters say it's because I'm lazy, but it's like, no, I just don't want to ruin the game for anybody. That, and then before I start my video, I really don't want to like play the game for like 3 or 4 hours before I can even get started. Because then I can't sit there and enjoy the story, and I like enjoying the story. And besides, sometimes it's fun to just go along with the story with you guys. But yeah, we're in the forest, we're right at around 60, we dropped down into the 58, 59s here with my settings. But it's mostly the SMAA. If you just turn that down to TAA or FXA, you'd probably gain a couple FPS and probably be more around 70. But since this wasn't a fast-paced first-person shooter, and I figured the game was going to get better over time, these are the settings I picked. Still has little stutters every once in a while, but it's nothing like the other games, where it happens quite frequently. Ooh, we drop all the way down to 52 over here. Hey, we found a cannibal. He just like ran away and climbed up a tree really fast. What a weirdo. You can't always stay at 60 with this setting, so yeah, I would just turn off the SMAA, and then you would get over 60 the whole time. I figured I could get away with it, since I walked around for like 3 or 4 minutes before starting the camera, and it was doing fine, but a lot of times you start making these 3-4 minute videos, and then you realize, uh-oh. Hey, it's a duck. Still, the game, it looks like it's got pretty nice graphics. Seems to be a pretty smooth running game. I can see why lots of people want to play this. I'm definitely looking forward to playing it a little later. I need a new game to play anyway. I've beaten Returnal lately, Persona 5 Royale just last night. That game was fucking awesome. Honestly, it was sad it was over. I put like 100 hours into that game. But all good things must come to an end. I'm sure I'll find another game I like as much as that one soon. But that and Elden Ring have been two of my favorite games I've played in a while. The Returnal was a close third. That game was fun. Hard, but fun. Oh, what do we got here? We got a little campsite. Probably full of cannibals. Probably gonna get eaten now. I flee. Hi, you'll never catch me. I'm fast as fuck, boy! Aha, now I'm in the water. But in any case, I think that's plenty of camera gameplay, so why don't we go ahead and wrap this video on up now? Well, alright guys, that is a wrap for Sons of the Forest on the Asus G15 Advantage at 1080p. And it did pretty damn good. Now with my settings, I kind of got ahead of myself with SMAA. I think I'd turn it back to TAA, because I don't think we ever dropped below 60 when I had high and TAA on. But other than that though, it ran great. We didn't have like insane stutters that were like game ruining every once in a blue moon. But I feel like sometimes that's just a Ryzen thing, because even my 5800X3D does shit like that sometimes in games. But of course, lots of games are just stutter fests on things no matter what you play them on, like Hogwarts was, although I think it's gotten a lot better with these recent updates. I think I'm about ready to retry that again and go around Hogsmeade for like 5 minutes and all the stuff, just real quick. Go get like 5 minutes of camera, 5 minutes of screen or something like that on there, because I want to see if it got better, you know? It was a pretty piss poor experience the first couple videos I made, but it honestly seemed like it was doing pretty good once I hooked it up to my computer, or I hooked my laptop up to my 4K TV, because somebody wanted to see how it ran at 4K to decide whether or not to buy it for the laptop or for his PS5. So anyway though, we're going off on a tangent. So still ran pretty damn good. So I'm gonna have to remember for once we get to the 1440p, no SMAA and aliasing, and leave it to the TAA. I won't use FXA at all. That's pretty much just, I hate that. It looks like Vaseline mode. But anyway though, that is all I got for you guys for this particular video. I sure hope you enjoyed it, because I sure as hell enjoyed making it for you guys. And until the next video, peace out guys.